The fight between Kosho and Jack has concluded, ending with a harsh loss for the cord cutter. In spite of returning to the story with new and better overall skills and physicality, Jack Hanma was far too much of a strong fighter. Upon seeing Kosho's performance in that fight, I pondered if the cord cutter could have been stronger before it. What if Kosho reached his full potential? We'll discuss about that in this video. I'll take control of Kosho and mold him to his strongest version, not beyond the realm of what is possible in the story. Like, for instance, I'm not giving Kosho a demon back, so relax. First things first is how strong Kosho is already. Kosho Shinogi is a practitioner in Shinogi Ryu and Himokiri Karate, which centers on slices and cutting his opponent's nerves, cords, and blood vessels. Him piercing a nerve could render you incapable of moving your body parts, or taking away your sight. Both injuries are recoverable with medical treatments. Pair the cord cutting with his incredible speed, and he's a very dangerous fighter under nearly any circumstance. Kosho's display of skill and tactical analysis in fights are also very miraculous. Doing his own research about his opponents and having a decent amount of knowledge about them. Kosho's mindset is very proper, having high belief in his own competency in fights, like when he fought his older brother, a grandmaster of Aiki, a death row inmate, or even a prehistoric caveman. Now Kosho is dangerous up close, but one point I think he struggles in is his grappling. We see this vulnerability in his Maximum Tournament match against Goki Shibukawa, and very recently in his match against Jack Hanma, where as soon as he got grabbed, the match was practically over. Not only would Kosho having some grappling know-how increase his chances of breaking out of those situations, but likewise add a useful fighting skill to his arsenal. Like for when Jack grabbed his hand in the fight, instead of attacking to cut a cord then still remaining in the hold, Kosho, while knowing grappling, could have maneuvered Jack to a bearing for breaking his arm, or reverse the hold in a way to release it and then start off at neutral. And who better yet to teach Kosho this skill than the new and improved Hanada. In Baki Rahen, Kosho and him had a sparring match, then subsequently had a newfound respect for one another. Hanada is a very skilled grappler in his own right, and who also returned with a massive buff. We saw this very clearly when he tussled with a certain Yakuza, and he's also Motobe's best pupil, as of now. If he was to teach his friend Kosho even the basics of grappling, Kosho would be a lot better suited in handling some positions in fights he may not have a great answer to, which would lead to his downfall in the long run. Albeit, Kosho is a prideful character, extremely prideful to an extent of not admitting his own defeats, even if he gets awfully overpowered. He wouldn't be inclined to learn from someone else since his devotion to the cord-cutting martial arts is strong. But remember, I'm in control, so he's gonna have to do it. With a proper amount of grappling and jujutsu skills at Kosho's disposal, he's already steadily improving considerably well as a fighter. That takes me to the next element that would catapult Kosho's prowess as a fighter to new heights: his brother, Kureha. Let me ask you something. Who is Kureha? I'm sure your answer is along the lines of a genius miracle doctor. Then you're correct. Someone who has tremendous amounts of knowledge about the human body and alike use that knowledge in diverse ways to destroy it and rejuvenate it. An extraordinary useful person Kosho can learn so much from. After studying with his brother, Kosho's versatility with his cord cutting skyrockets. Now Kosho can cut a nerve that would paralyze his opponent's entire body, cuts a nerve that stops their hearing, cuts a nerve that distorts their vision. There could even be a cord in a body that if cut, the person ends up dying. Would there be a cord for something that severe? I don't know. But Kosho would know after learning from his brother. That's on extreme occurrence if Kosho wants to go that far. But the list can go on and on depending on how much Kosho learns and utilizes this into his own technique. I'm just bewildered Kosho hasn't used this as an option in the series to get stronger, and it's his blood relation. Kureha unironically knows more than Kosho when it comes to cords to cut and the multifariousness of what can be cut to deliver a serious result. On top of that, Kosho could resort to using Kureha's techniques as a byproduct to inflict some damage and to have a better variety of offensive procedures in a fight, if he wanted to. To what Kosho has now, I gave him a good supply of grappling expertise from Hanada and a broader outreach in cord cutting options thanks to his brother Kureha. With these two prerequisites, Kosho is already on a much higher level of power than he originally was. That's not even the icing on the cake. What really makes the colossal difference in Kosho's aptitude as a fighter is the next implementation he receives. Those of you who assessed the thumbnail of this video already know what that is and where I'm leading next. Let me explain. We know Kosho's martial art is in tangents with some application to karate, as the name implies, Himokiri karate. I'm not sure that it's the main reason why he's acquainted with Katsumi or the Shinshinkai, but at the end of the day, Kosho and Katsumi would be considered allies, right? Knowing this and the fact that Kosho's main goal as of this video is to get stronger, Kosho would ask Katsumi, his fellow karate practitioner, to instruct him on learning the imagination power. Someone might say, how would Kosho even know Katsumi has the imagination power? And I say to you, dear viewer, Kosho in retrospective is a well-informed guy. So he's bound to know from either word of mouth that Katsumi has the imagination power and he used it against Pickle, or he just researched and learned from his own curiosity. If Kosho takes advantage of imagination in the world of Baki, he imagines multiple joints like Katsumi that would end up boosting the speed of his cord cutting attacks and the scale of damage they will inflict, as well as increasing his slashing attacks to the point of maybe even slicing somebody similar to how a sword would slice. The imagination power is an ability that if any Baki character was to use it, they would become significantly stronger. Taking this a step further, for the comfort of mixing this with his own style, he could imagine springs within his arms or bones instead of multiple joints that would compress and compress until when it's released, blasts in where Kosho's aiming, like a rocket, even further making his cord cuts or slashes ever more deadly. So to recap, a full potential Kosho has another fighting approach in his kitchen, which is grappling. He has an immense stretch of information on the human body, developing the proficiency of his cord cutting, and the power of imagination, when applied, upsurges the speed and power of his cord cuts and slashes even more. This version of Kosho would go as far to defeat Shibukawa and give Jack a high diff fight if they were to have another encounter, but Also, defeat fighters like Doppo, Hanayama. Honestly, I can't put him above Katsumi. I can't. He did learn the imagination from the karateka, and most likely isn't as great as using it as Katsumi would be, as well as Katsumi having an arm practically filled with 4,000 years of Chinese martial arts. I'd humbly say this version of Kosho is not beating Katsumi, although presenting a tough battle for the karate genius. Ultimately, a full potential Kosho is vastly stronger than he once was. His martial arts and his name would be greatly known more and more in the world of Baki as a deadly threat. The strong is the beautiful.